Again, thank you for joining us, and I will now turn it over to TYRC Assistant Director Tasha Friday.
Thank you, Laura, and welcome everyone. As they mentioned before, you are in digital smoke signals using technology as a tool for engagement. And so we'd like to welcome you all to the session today, and hopefully you get some value added information and resources that will contribute to the success of your programs and the wellness of your communities. Next slide, please. So we always like to open in a good way, and today I just wanted to open with a little humor. Jerry Rainingbird, who is supporting our session today, always opens our meetings or closes them, and he brings humor into it. And I think as Native people, humor is a huge part of everything we do. I called this session Digital Smoke Signals because, traditionally and even stereotypically, right, people are saying, Natives use smoke signals to communicate. And so right now we're using these digital smoke signals, especially in a time of COVID-19. And so I think we're communicating a lot virtually. And so just looking at what some digital smoke signals might look like. And the one that says, hey, they've got donuts, I really like that one. So a little lighter, good opening today than usual, but hopefully that brings a smile to your face and lightens your spirit. So next slide. We're going to go ahead and go into introductions. As Laura mentioned, I am the Assistant Director of the Tribal Youth Resource Center. I'm Wichita, Kiowa, and Caddo from Oklahoma. Today, I am joining you from Porcupine, South Dakota, the ancestral territory and the current territory of the Oglala Lakota people. We were just going to talk a little bit, Nicole and Angey will introduce themselves, but when we prepared for this session, we wanted to talk about who we are, what we do, and how we came to this work and what fuels our passion. I came to this work a long time ago. I think I was born into this work, working with youth in the footsteps of my grandmother. And so that's what brought me to this work, but the youth really are the passion behind everything that I do in the future generations and trying to make a positive impact. So now I will turn this over to Nicole Hewitt and let her answer those questions as well, because we really want you to get to know who we are and have this in a very conversational way. Nicole?
First, Tucson, everyone. Thank you, Tasha. Good morning. My name is Nicole Hewitt. I am from the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. I am Umpqua, Rogue River, Kalapuya, and Shasta. And I have the honor of doing this work. When I was a young person, I definitely made some poor choices. I did not know what to do with some real big feelings. I didn't have the tools. And so I am grateful to Creator because I believe I was born with a gift that I wanted to do healing and I wanted to be a therapist. And I spoke that vision. And I also spoke a vision that I wanted to give back to my reservation. I was living out of the state and I just wanted to give back to my people. And those are two visions I had for my life as a kid. And I truly believe if you speak it, believe it, and Creator gives you so many blessings and people and teachers and opportunities. And so both of those visions have come true for me. I moved to Oregon from California. I've been blessed to work with my people. I've worked with young people since I left school. And I am just so honored every day to do the work and be surrounded by such amazing people who allow me to do more than I ever thought I could. So, hi, Masi, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And now I'll turn it over to Angey to introduce herself.
Hi, Slush Chisan Kanawai Tilakam Nikanim Angey. Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Angey, and I work at the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Youth Empowerment and Prevention Program as a grant coordinator. Kind of what brought me to this work is just a love for my community and growing up not feeling like I had a voice as a young person and not feeling empowered really was hard to experience alone. And so I've always really enjoyed working with young people and also trying to find a way to encourage, empower, and lift them up. And so by nature, through this work that we do every day, I have the privilege of working with our young people and helping them discover themselves in their tribal culture and heritage, and lift them up and just empower them to use their voices for themselves.
Thank you, ladies, and welcome. I definitely consider these ladies relatives. I had the opportunity to visit their community, and I get the privilege and the pleasure of watching the amazing work they do. So I appreciate you being your willingness to share that with other communities across Indian country. And I think you're definitely a model of what we can do when we're using digital engagement. And so really appreciate the work that you do. And I really like that you said, Angey, that it's a privilege to work with the youth and that you guys are both committed to empowering them. Because again, just like in our sessions yesterday, always reminding ourselves that it's about the youth, right? It's not about us, it's about the youth and what we can do to help them and heal our communities and strengthen our communities. So really appreciate you both for being willing to do this today. Next slide. So I really love this picture because when we're talking about Indigenous communication, that can look a little different than how others communicate, other communities, other ethnicities. A lot of tribes and people are known for a good lip point, right? And so this baby girl is already well versed in the lip point. And so we're looking at those things. So our unique communication styles are, those could be regional, it could be slang, it could be tribal words that we use, it could be a or chi or whatever it is that we say. And I think those kinds of things are still important to youth. It speaks to their identity, even if it is slang or something like that. And that we need to adapt all of our styles of communication and means of communication to fit our unique communities. And then there are, of course, when we're talking about slang and different things, especially with youth, we've seen like the rise of Studis and Skodin and all of these things. And so youth really attach to that and internalize those things and take ownership of those things. So really just looking at all the different ways that make us unique as a people and that we can relate with one another. And that's really what the communication is about, and the engagement is connecting as a community, and particularly in a digital environment here. Next slide. So just engagement generally, I don't want to read to everyone, and I know that we all know what engagement is, but youth engagement is about empowering all young people as valuable partners in addressing and making decisions about issues that affect them personally and or that they believe to be important. And I think that's really, there's some key words in there, and that's empowering them, and that there are partners, and that we're addressing issues that affect them personally, because any one of us could and maybe have written a grant and said, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to be amazing, and the youth are going to benefit. But at any point, did we engage with youth to determine what they prioritize and how they want to be included in the process and interact with how things are going? So today, our learning objectives are that we are going to increase our knowledge about what digital platforms are available and that could be utilized in the engagement of tribal youth. We're going to increase our awareness of how peers have successfully utilized prevention and intervention messaging in the digital environment, and those are our relatives here from Grand Ronde. And then we are going to try to make connections between successful utilization of digital engagement as a means to broaden the access and the reach of tribal youth program or juvenile healing to wellness courts through digital messaging. So those are kind of broad objectives, and I think as we're all learning from each other and having this virtual conversation, that things will start to percolate in our minds about how we can tie these back to our community and the needs of our youth and the strengths and challenges that we have that exist around us. Next slide. So the guiding question for today is really just how can I use a virtual environment to impact the youth in my community? So we're going to talk about a variety of ways to do that. We encourage you to ask questions throughout in the chat. Jerry will be monitoring those, and then there will be a formal question and answer at the end as well. So let's go ahead and get started. We could talk about this for hours. We're going to try to do a brief overview and see where we can go from here. We have an amazing resource sheet on this as well. So looking at platforms, there are a variety of platforms. This doesn't even capture all of them. These are some of the major ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about these platforms. Some you may be familiar with, some not so much. And then Angey and Nicole are really adept at using some of these and have done so in an innovative way. So they may lean in and talk about a particular platform in a way in which they have used it or are going to use it. Particularly, I'm super excited about their interaction with the Twitch platform. So we'll start with Zoom. We're on a Zoom. I think we're all mostly familiar with that. Can be used for meetings and conferences and things like that. And more formal presentations. TikTok videos, short videos. I think we've all seen the cranberry skateboard guy. So really huge ability to go viral with that. Youth love that platform right now. Facebook, my kids tell me that's Instagram for old people. I'm an old person, I guess, but a lot of, I think, parents and a certain demographic would use Facebook more. It's really great for programmatic pages to just have easy access to information. Whereas, say, Instagram, if you do a story, it's going to disappear after a while. It's more limiting in the amount of content, but youth really do love Instagram right now. Constant Contact, we use that for our newsletter. So if you're interested in sending a newsletter, that's a really good platform to do that. Twitter, of course, small, bite-sized messaging, but very quick, easy access to your audience. YouTube, I know here at the Tribal Youth Resource Center, we do have a YouTube page where we house a lot of our videos. I've seen other tribal youth programs do that as well. There's some really great videos there too about healing to wellness courts, both adult and juvenile. And so really good place to hold your information and your content if you don't have a website. And then Twitch is more of a gaming site, but you've seen AOC from Congress. She's held some events there in really an interesting way to engage youth and people in general. So I guess Nicole or Angey, do you want to talk a little bit about any of these platforms, but particularly Twitch? I'm super excited about Twitch.
Yeah. So we basically, if you could start with like arrows, it would go for us, Facebook, and I'll talk more about that specifically, and then goes into Instagram, how we've utilized Zoom, how our community is utilizing YouTube. And then I was on a presentation similar to this, a smaller presentation actually, and an agency was talking about Twitch. And they discussed how they are utilizing Twitch to address mental health and create a safe space for not only gamers, but also to have a mental health discussion. And so that group is called Youth Era. They have multiple locations. I was talking to the team from the Salem office, but they do have multiple locations. And I highly recommend if anyone is on Twitch or looks up Youth Era, ERA, you can find them on Facebook, and they have flyers to all of their media pages, but they have multiple basically they play video games, and then they have someone directing conversation. They, in their chat box, are talking about mental health issues. They are talking and checking in with young people during the play. And so I was like, that's where we need to go next. And the team, and I didn't know anything about it. So if you see some of these platforms and you have no idea how to use them, please reach out. It is so great to have a community, all different people and populations that we work with, but we all have the same passion, which is to serve our communities. And so that team has been so amazing and has held conferences with us, have offered to teach us how to utilize the platform. They're helping us as we create a presentation to bring to our tribal council as far as what we're allowed to use as platforms, because we have to check in and we have to get approval of what we can use. So we are very grateful to Youth Era and to other, again, just other presentations just like this for inspiration. So that's how we plan on utilizing Twitch. One of our team members, a younger member, is very into gaming, and he is going to take the lead on being one of the streamers. We will be what are called monitor, like, so just as people monitor the chat here, we would be monitoring on Twitch. We would have a mental health provider available as needed. You can do private messaging, group messaging. And so that is how we hope. And we've just finished a presentation so that we can present it. And so then we will get Twitch up and running for us.
That's amazing. I like how, you know, there are so many young people that love gaming and Twitch. I've even listened to some of my favorite DJs have switched from Instagram to Twitch, and they'll have like DJ parties. And so a lot of different ways that you can access youth. And I think also having the distraction of playing the game might help them to communicate better as well. So I think that's amazing. I'm super excited to see what happens with that. Angey, did you want to talk about any of the platforms that you all have used?
Sure. So we primarily use Facebook because that's one, what we're most comfortable with, and two, where our largest audience is. We do also use Instagram. We just try to go where the youth are and use the most recent platform that we have been authorized to use to best reach them. And as we continue to learn and grow through COVID and learning how to communicate this way, we find out new stuff, and I'm sure that there will be new technology moving forward. I did see a comment in the chat box about Twitch being a much broader platform than just gaming. And yes, that's absolutely true. There's yoga, there's other types of groups that meet together, and they've just found this platform to be something as like a meeting group socially on the web. So, and another question was, what was the ghost one? And that is Snapchat.
My apologies. I skipped over Snapchat. Youth really do also like Snapchat, but I see, at least I'm the mother of 2 teenage daughters, so 14 and 16. And what I see, at least in my household and among their peers, is like TikTok is the thing right now, with Instagram as a close second. And so, but yeah, Snapchat is still pretty big. As far as how youth communicate with one another and how they like to receive their information. Another thing I know, Angey and Nicole are also working on a potential mentoring curriculum for their youth. And one thing that I've shared with them and others is that there's a mentoring platform that I came across in being a mentor for my law school. And it's called Cooper, and we can put it in the chat as well. The platform is amazing. It creates badges, and you can chat and directly call one another, and it's really a great platform. I don't know if it has been adapted for younger people, but I'm sure something exists, because I didn't even know it existed until I became a mentor. And so I love that platform, super user friendly, and a way to connect youth to each other in a mentor relationship. Another thing that a lot of tribes are using, particularly in light of the, COVID-19 global pandemic that we're still in, is mass texting or SMS. And so some of those are emergency messaging, but some of those are prevention messaging, or just, tribal words and language that are uplifting, like an uplifting message of the day. So you can use mass texting services as well as a way to engage your youth and your community. And I was reading a statistic that text messaging is one of the easiest ways to contact people, and people are usually responsive within 30 minutes to a text, as opposed to other avenues of communication. And then, of course, there are other things like GroupMe and things that a lot of us may use if we have children in school, and creating groups that way. But there are other ways that you can do that that aren't necessarily on the computer, but more cell phone based, which I think is also really great. If you do have teenagers, they're usually like this in their phone anyway. So really great. Before we go to the next slide, is there anything else that you wanted to say about these particular platforms or how you guys have used them?
I did want to mention, I see some different comments, such as certain youth aren't on any of these platforms, and we've experienced that. So we use, again, we have to get authorization. So we utilize Facebook, we utilize Instagram, we utilize Zoom. Our team doesn't utilize YouTube. That was one we were told we couldn't because our tribe has other channels through YouTube. So our community and our agency utilizes YouTube as well. We were told we couldn't use TikTok, Snapchat, and so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But also, some of our team members, we had a 5-6 member team. Some of us know how to utilize the platforms and some of us don't. So we really lean on the people who feel more comfortable. And it just happens that some of them are a lot younger, and so we're utilizing them to help us in platforms that they feel more comfortable with.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Angie. I'm sorry.
The last thing that I want to add is something that I always forget, but can be a good tool in hearing you talk about texting features, is the Twitter platform also has the ability to send texts if your followers what do you call that? If they subscribe to it, and every time you send a tweet out, they get a text message. So it's something to think about. I often forget about that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And there are so many ways to utilize these platforms that you may not know, functionalities that they have. And I saw our relative, Mr. Headdress, was saying, old guys like us don't know how to do any of these. And that's what this session is for. And I think all of us, we were at different levels of understanding of what these things were. And then with COVID-19, we had to just jump in the water and figure them out. So we're really glad. If you don't know anything about digital engagement, this is for you, because we want to be able to help share this information. And I think for the Tribal Youth Resource Center, we are going to try to do some more skills-based. And again, there are some really great resources in the resource sheet for this session that are super helpful. And it looks like someone is asking about HIPAA compliance with using the social media platform. So I'll refer that to maybe Nicole.
Yeah, and is my audio getting any better? I'm seeing comments. I switched to original audio to see if that will help. So when we are having discussions, especially if they are around any mental health concerns, we do more over the phone, and then we transfer to a more traditional platform. So we do walk-in talks. During COVID, we were not seeing young people or families in our building due to the regulations that our tribe put out. So we started doing walk-in talks outside. We would do phone calls. For Zoom, there is some compliance. It depends, I guess, which version you're using, but we are doing a lot more of those discussions around more serious mental health. We are doing those more in person, over the phone, or asking someone to come into the office. For Twitch, we haven't utilized the platform yet. So although they discuss mental health issues, it is a public platform. So there is no advisement that we would be utilizing confidentiality, HIPAA compliance under the Twitch platform. So that is the best feedback I have, is if it does go into a conversation where we feel that a youth, I guess, would be needing more direct service, then we do that. With our Facebook page, it is a private page. However, Facebook itself is not HIPAA compliant. So it's a public page, but it is a private group, if that makes sense. And our Instagram is public. It is not private at all.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we are going to go to the next slide, but I know that people are also mentioning Google Meet. There's Office Teams. There's so many things. I think particularly we were focusing, and Google is definitely one of them, but really trying to look at what youth are using. And you can see that here. This is pulled from Healthy Native Youth, who I give a huge shout out to. They have tons of information. They have a community of practice that they do on a lot of different youth issues and things in engaging youth. And so I really love this. So I pulled this from their website. You can look at the differences between 2020 and 2016 as to what youth are using. And then you don't even see things like TikTok on here yet. But you can see that Instagram in 2020, Instagram and Snapchat have both risen. People are still using Facebook. 98% of youth go online from a phone or a mobile device. I think that's important too, because when we're looking at, are we going to build a website or are we going to use something else that is easily accessible, like create an app or what have you. So these are important things to look at. And these are broad, right? These are broad, what are Native youth using? I think specifically, and we're going to get into that. We need to figure out what are our youth using in our area and what do we have access to? Do we have broadband? Do we have cell service? Are there towers? So there's so many considerations that are really going to have to be taken for your particular community. So there's that. And then also, if you look here at the 2020, you can also see some of the concerning issues with youth using the digital environment and what they're seeing as far as violence and posting concerning messages about depression and suicide and things like that. So they are using it to communicate. I think we have to determine, are we listening and are we communicating with them in the way that they want to have communication? And it just takes adaptation and really trying to know our community and having our finger on the pulse of what our youth are experiencing and how we're interacting with them. But I think what we see here, what we can draw from this for sure, is that they are on digital and social media, whether we are or not. So, if we want to engage with them, then we have to step up our game. And I applaud all of us for being on this today and really trying to figure it out, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to figure it out together, but really thinking about the ways in which they're living, because this is part of their life now. So next slide. So when we're looking at choosing platforms, I think Angey and Nicole alluded to kind of how they started and why they use what they use. Some of that is restrictions, right? They have restrictions within the tribe of what they can use and what they can't. Some of it has to do with how where their biggest audience are and things like that. So the first thing you do want to look at is knowing your audience. Who are you trying to reach? Because like I said, maybe if we're trying to reach parents, that might be something different than if we're trying to reach young people. And then looking at, breaking that down even into even more narrow confines is what age group of young people are we trying to address, because that can look very different as well. So really looking at the age range and the demographic information of who we're trying to reach. And so I think the other thing that we see from Angey and Nicole and the success of Grand Ronde is that they have a good mixture. It's not just one platform. They haven't dedicated all resources and say, this is our thing. They've diversified their approach to digital engagement. And I think that is definitely serving them and their community well. The next thing we want to look at is what information or messaging are we disseminating? So are they events, community events, or are they prevention messages? That might look a little different. And then what platforms are the youth using? I think we saw that in the slide previous to this. And how do we determine that for our communities? So it could be a survey, could be a focus group. I know yesterday in the youth panel that I led, one of the youth was talking about incentivizing some of these things. And sometimes it takes that, right? So if there's a survey, maybe we couple a raffle or something with it that helps us get the information we need so we can offer relevant services for prevention, intervention, and those kinds of things. And then what platforms are parents and caregivers using? So similar, because we want to see the difference and be able to direct our messaging. So did you guys want to talk about any of these things, specifically how you made those decisions, or anything else you have to offer our audience?
I just wanted to mention, as I'm seeing again the comments, some people struggle with internet connection, and we're in a very rural area as well. We have advocated for tribal council to allow more hotspots, especially during COVID. Many families who didn't have devices were able to get some devices either through school or tribal assistance, and we definitely mix it up with social media platforms, but then we utilize a lot of in-person events. During COVID, it was encouraging families or individuals to do the event. We've created an email account through our work where we're like, if you don't have internet, just email us, if you're at work, if you're at school, if you can get to a library to shoot us an email with pictures, then we will take that as an entry. As Tasha mentioned, lots of incentives, lots and lots of incentives. And so we try and make it as easy for our families. We hear the concerns that they have around connection issues or multiple people using one device. And so we, again, just try and mix it up as best as possible. So that everyone's able to engage. If you can't get online, can you do a walk and take a picture? If you take a picture, can you text it to us? And that'll be an entry. Any way that we can support and be creative. We have learned and made mistakes and learned. And as Tasha said, we also look at our insights to look at where are we getting the most. Where are we getting the most responses? Where are we getting the most interaction? And that's where we gear more towards. And so we've built on that. I did not know anything about Facebook Insights or how to look at that data. We have learned as we have gone. We did not walk into this being tech experts by any means. And so it really has been a learning experience for us. And we had different resources within our tribe that I didn't even know about. I didn't know there was a whole department that just works on like social media, and that's who we had to get approval from. I didn't even know that. Then they taught us how to look at insights. So it's been humbling, exciting, frustrating, all of the things it could be. But we've been willing to walk through those steps and just kind of bumping around in the dark. And then once we found a groove, we just kept building and building. And then it was really consistency. Anything you do, if you're consistent and have incentives, but really it comes down to consistent, because even with the incentives, if you're not consistent, no one's attending your events or no one's showing up on your social media platforms. So that would be the biggest advice of once you find the platform. And we knew Instagram was the next step. So then we started building our Instagram, and it happened right before COVID. So we've really been sort of building, but our Facebook took off, which we were not expecting, because we thought it has to be Instagram. It has to be Instagram. Well, it was Facebook, and I'll get more into the numbers. But once we saw it take off, that's where we put our energy, supplementing with Instagram. Now let's start doing events on Zoom. And so as Tasha mentioned, we're just sprinkling everything and seeing what our community responds to the best.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So then we're going to talk about creating content. Where do we get content? Number one, the youth, right? Youth can help drive the content. They should help drive the content. local community events and happenings that may look different right now for COVID or during COVID, state events, intertribal events, really encouraging. I know that at Grand Ronde, they work intradepartmentally, right? They have partners in other departments and support and uplift each other. And I've seen that with other communities and grantees that I serve, working together and promoting each other's events. And so really getting your messaging out that way, and creating content that is kind of a twofer. And then national movements, we've seen different campaigns and hashtags and becoming a part of that and connecting your youth to those movements. And some of those are Indigenous movements and some of those are like Black Lives Matter, right? Connecting our youth to these greater social movements and things that are going to empower them as young people of color, and those kinds of things. I would encourage that, again, we're using verbiage that fits the youth demographic, speaking to them in the way that they want to take in information, and then using graphics that get the message across and grab attention. Also, when you're creating your content, not too wordy, right? You gotta get your message out, but be very succinct because people get lost in the words. And so we want to hit it that way. And so there's a little visual here of some interesting youth slang that we may or may not know, and of course we want to use appropriate things, but if a youth says that's Gucci, then maybe that's what we say and that means good, I guess. So just really looking at what youth do when we're creating the content. Next slide. Also, just wanted to touch on a couple, and then Angey and Nicole can add in as well. A couple of my favorite sites where you can create content. There are free versions of both of these. You can also always get paid services, but Canva is my go-to number one. I do a lot of other work outside of my main job. And if I'm designing anything, it's usually going to be on Canva, very user-friendly. There are a lot of things that you can pay for, but you can totally create flyers, posts, and everything is already ratioed out for whatever kind of social media you're going to be doing. So you can use it for a post on Facebook and then switch it to a post on Instagram, because a lot of times people don't know that they have certain ratios that they have to fit, or like your content will be all over the place or cut off. And so simple things like that. Canva also, with the paid subscription, you can schedule posts, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then Adobe Spark, I've created some small videos for my work here, little montages. And so there's an unpaid or a free version of that as well. Are there any others, or do you want to talk about either of these? Have you all used these at all?
Yeah, we use Canva. We have the purchased subscription. It's really great for the money that you pay for that, the options that add into that. We use Poster My Wall, which is something great to create flyers, interactive. A couple of other apps that I absolutely love, Teza, Unfold, InShot is great for like video editing. It has transitions, graphics, text. You can add music, you can delete audio so that you can voice over. Like there's so many different things you can do with it. If I have to think about creating content, again, it's really just, what is your audience looking for? What captures them? For us, it's live. So when we do Facebook Live, we get a huge audience, tons of views for weeks to come. People keep coming back and checking. We've even had some international views through lives, and that's what our community responds to. So it seems scary to do lives, but you just have to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit go. And something that I like to call messy action, because you're just doing the do. People don't know what they don't know. If you have this big script and you don't say some of it, they don't know. You're the only one who knows that you didn't say what you had to say, right? And so just being bold, genuine, and authentic. Our community has told us time and time again they love our lives because they are real in the moment of what we're doing. We're not like super planning this script and you're going to say this and you're going to say that and make sure we're just hitting the button and being ourselves and sharing information and sharing our lives with our community. And so that I think is really important to make sure, no matter how you create content, no matter what platform you're using or apps or whatever, that you be genuine and authentic, and the rest will come. And the consistency piece, I really have to touch on that again. Nicole mentioned it, but being consistent in posting, getting a rhythm is really key. If you post once a week or once every other week or just very sporadically, the way that algorithms work on any of these social media platforms, your audience won't be reached. So trying to figure that out. There's a question in the chat about how we figure out the best time for FB Live. Well, Insights is amazing for Instagram or Facebook, either one of those two platforms I'm more familiar with. So going into your admin part of your Instagram or your Facebook and utilizing those insight tools, it will tell you when your people are on, when your audience is on. It will tell you your age demographic broken out into percentages. It will tell you your reach, how far you've like where people are watching from. So internationally, different states, different regions. So we honestly just go live whenever we have appropriate content to go live for. We don't look at the insights and go, okay, 2 p.m. on Friday is the best time to go live. If we have something really important that we need to get out and disseminate information to the community, then we might evaluate that. But just for our day-to-day stuff, when we're trying to reach people, it's just, again, I call it messy action. You just hit the button and go.
Right, and I think we're already moving into the content for the next slide. So if we just want to go to that. So that question really speaks to managing the content. Like I was saying, and what she alluded to is that you can schedule your posts. If you're really organized. I run a page for something else, and it's hard to be consistent, right? It's hard to plan ahead and all of those things, but scheduling is super helpful. You can schedule them monthly, daily, you can pick the time of day, and there are analytics that tell you what time is the best time, but that may not be the best time for your community, or it might not be the best time for you, most convenient time for you. And as Angey explained, when you look, it's kind of exciting, actually, when you start to look and see, oh my gosh, my post reached 25,000 people and somebody's in Dublin, Ireland looking at my post. That's kind of cool, right? To really look at what the global community looks like, and that people even that far away are getting information about tribal issues and concerns and culture and empowerment and all those things. I think that's amazing. And so it's exciting to look. And sometimes if you do something really good, you keep checking, you're like, oh, we're up to 10,000 or whatever, and you're really proud of that. I think the other thing, I will share that, like she said, when you look at those insights on Facebook, and we may need to do another learning event in the future and really just get into the nuts and bolts of what that looks like and show people how to move around in there, because it is a learning curve for sure to figure out what does all of this mean. But, this is important data, and we'll talk about data collection and evaluation and different things throughout this conference. But it's part of telling our story, understanding our story, knowing what works in our community and what doesn't. So definitely managing your content is an important piece to think about. And we'll go to the next slide. We're going to have a video of some of the great work that they did, so I want to make sure that we leave time for that. So over, for sure, the past year, we've seen a ton of different examples of digital engagement. So we wanted to provide kind of a lengthy list, but just to spur some brainstorming, some thought about some things. And these are things that we've all seen, my colleagues and I, and I've seen it with Angey and Nicole, a lot of these things in different tribal communities and how they've used digital engagement. And so you'll see in the flyers here, there was a Native Youth Town Hall that happened all across Indian country that was a partnership between OJJDP and Unity. It was kind of regional. And so youth, I got to sit in on some of those. And so it gave youth a place and space and way to talk to each other and talk to OJJDP. And so that was really a good one. There were all kinds of different workshops, but I thought this one was really neat that it was a photo workshop. And then of course, I think most of us are familiar with the social distance powwow, the kind of the main one that kicked it off. And then there were all of these other ones that were community specific or youth specific. And so I think one thing that we've learned too is that you cannot stop Natives from gathering, whether it's virtual or what have you. So we're always going to find a way to connect and be a part of our community. We've seen cultural arts classes, language classes, online QPR, which some of you all will be experiencing as part of our conference too, an online QPR, question, persuade and refer, different online camps. I know my children attended the Thrive camp with We Are Native and super loved that. It was a really great conference. It was one of the best virtual events they said they had ever attended. There have been online youth and community GONAs. My tribe just did one of those last week. Different sorts of challenges and contests. I think as Natives, and we heard that again with the youth yesterday, we love competition. And so really utilizing that and putting that in a digital environment. And so again, Snapchat filters too, or Facebook filters, the little things that you can put over that kind of note who you are and what you're doing. So a lot of different things. A couple other things at the bottom that we haven't discussed yet are blogs and podcasting. I think the other piece that we should probably all look to moving to once we kind of get our heads wrapped around digital engagement generally. This is a perfect opportunity to involve youth in the process, to recruit them and encourage them to create the content themselves and be a true part of driving what your social media and digital engagement look like. And so I think any of these provide opportunities for youth to participate, contribute, and add value to what it is that you're doing in your community. So now let's go to the next slide. We're going to show a clip of a video montage created by the team at Grand Ronde, and then they'll talk a little bit about this. This was one of their most successful endeavors. So give me just a moment here. And it's going to be about 4 minutes, but I think it's really impactful. So here.
Hello everybody, this is Shannon from Youth Empowerment and Prevention Program. Make the easiest fry bread in the world. Try just a little bit, a dash, couple dashes, or something over it. 20 minutes. You flatten them out after they sat for 20 minutes, and you whip it down, drop them in. Here's our fry bread. Easiest fry bread.
Wash your hands right before we started. I don't know. I guess the only memory that keeps popping into my head is when we're all sitting down together eating, and it was never something that we had done before, but my daughter, who's now 14, I think she was only like maybe 4, maybe she was maybe even 3, but she had said, we need to all go around the table and say what we're thankful for. And so my grandparents were like, what? And then so she started it off, and then we all went around and did it. And now she's, like I said, 14, and we have done it every year.
Hi, welcome to Cooking with Shannon. Hey, our guest today is
Isaiah Sherwood from Youth Ed.
peel your potatoes, and then you want to chop them up in bite size.
Shannon, I've never used one of these. I don't even know what they're.
Like hamburger smasher. And then we just put it in the oven for, I think this is 25 minutes.
shows, because we don't know what everybody's day's been like or if our day's been stressful, but we want to cook with love and we don't want any bad energy when we're cooking. So we're going to take a pause. We're going to do 3 deep breaths, and we hope you can all do them with us at home. So when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to count to 7. Now blow out the candle. Okay, in through your nose. Out through your mouth, blow out your candle. Talk a little bit about taking care of yourself and emotional health. So we just wanted to give a few pointers for that. So it's important to take breaks throughout the day, even if it's like 10 minutes at the end of your day to write in a journal, write in a diary, whatever you have, but reflect on your day and 3 things that went well for you today. The next one would be stay in touch with friends and family instead of texting, FaceTime or call them. So you can, especially FaceTime right now, if you have the option, or Skype, is that what it's called, Skyping?
Skype, and also, if you guys haven't heard of it, Marco Polo app.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
You know, since there's less contact in person, FaceTime or call them, get that connection made. Another emotional health tip is make one healthy choice a day, like instead of snacking on chips, grab an apple. Instead of sitting on the couch and talking, or just sitting and talking, take a walk and talk. Hi, Santi. And find time to relax. That means to sit down and turn off your work brain, find time to meditate, listen to music, take a bath, take a walk by yourself, anything that helps you to relax and kind of be able to regulate yourself again and, bring yourself back down. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline on there, and we also have the youth texting line. So the youth texting line is just that. You text teen to teen to 839-863, and then somebody will be texting back if you need to reach out for any sort of help or just someone to talk to. We know times are tough right now. There's all the uncertainties with school, going back to school, remote learning again. So there's just a lot going on in the world, and everything is changing every day. So just remember that we need you here. We all care about you. And if you need to talk to somebody, reach out. This in the comments, and then the teen texting line.
Okay, I think that was really amazing. I'm sorry we couldn't show the whole thing, but just how you all incorporated that. We've put up a couple slides of your Facebook page, but I wanted to give you the space to talk about the cooking show and how that went. And then I think we have about 20 minutes, so I want to make sure that we leave enough time for questions and answers and discussion. So.
Thank you. And I want to give a big thank you to Angey for putting that together. Again, use the strength of different team members. I'm good with lives, but I am not good with creating anything like that. So I'm so grateful for the team members all pitching in and using their strengths. So when I came on to manage the team, we had a Facebook page, but it had in 2018 no views. It had no activity and no views. The team wasn't using it, and therefore the community wasn't watching it. And so in 2019, we were like, okay, we do want to start using this. And so we started going old school. We just assigned a day. Angey, you're on Mondays. Nicole, me, I'm taking Tuesdays. Amber's taking Wednesdays. Shannon's taking Thursdays. And so it was just each team member. And that's how we started. And so we started to bring content, and it was very much shaped around our grant initiatives. Like, so someone's promoting tobacco cessation, someone's promoting drug and alcohol prevention. And that's where we started. And that was really the beginning. So then COVID hits, and now our offices get closed down and we're at home. And so taking inspiration from other amazing groups such as Native Wellness Institute, I-20SP, which is the Indigenous 20-something project, we were seeing them doing these lives on Facebook, and they were engaging so many people and bringing hope and bringing community. And so I was like, how can we do that? And let's start doing Facebook lives from our house, and we'll just do them from our house just as a check-in to say we're with you. We are all struggling, but we're here for you. Even though we're not in the office, like, please continue to reach out to us. So that's where it started. And then Shannon's turn. So Shannon is so many things, but is a known cook in our community. She cooks it like Canoe Journey. Everyone comes for her food at all of our events. Everyone knows Shannon and her love through food. So Shannon did not feel comfortable talking on the camera. She said, I just want to cook. Okay, cook. And so that's what she did. And that was the birth of Cooking Live with Shannon. It blew up. It had the most views of anything we had done. So our post-COVID, our first post, like after COVID was really starting, hit 4,000 views. So we went from 1 to 2 to 5 to 100 and just kept building. And then we get back in the office and it really started to catch on for people. And so when we came back in the office, I had asked Shannon, like, what do you think about doing these lives? Because our offices were closed to the public. We could come back into them, but we were not allowed to engage in physical. We were not, I mean, you take away events from our prevention program, we don't, that's everything we do is live events. So as all of you, we've had to be very creative. The keyword pivot is real. And so Shannon's like, yeah, let's do it. And that's how it was born. We are lucky. We have a community kitchen and we have a kitchen in our youth ed department. So we said, let's film it in youth ed. That is where our kids go. Our kids spend all their time after school at youth ed. It feels comforting. And so that's where we started. As Angey meant, we would stumble, we would laugh, and they've gotten a bit more sophisticated as time has gone on. So also to mix in events, we were planning a mental health awareness walk right before COVID started. So we had done all this planning and then we decided once COVID hit, let's take it virtual. And so we created a hashtag. Our hashtag is very important to the work that we do with social media. It is hashtag CTGR Wellness Warriors. We attach that to everything we did. So if we were doing a Facebook Live, or if anyone just wanted to post on Facebook or Instagram or send us any pictures, that would give them entries into incentives. And so we have had other programs plug our hashtag. We have our youth council plug our hashtag. We have promoted our youth council like, hey, let's get you a hashtag. And so it really has, the hashtag has been the same since we started. And so now everyone knows that hashtag, which is really, it's just really beautiful. So we did our virtual walk and we said, if you post pictures on the route and use our hashtag, you will be added into incentives. And we had a really good not just local people, which usually we would only get a local audience, but people out of the state. People who were in Portland, which is an hour from us, we were able to open it up to our larger community, which was really nice. Our Facebook Lives has elders attend, young people attend. People started taking pictures with their families, promotion of healthy meals and just healthy activities together. So then we were making sure, hey, we need to be promoting our prevention messaging. As you heard, we have conscious discipline. We wanted to promote suicide prevention because the mental health crisis that was happening and increasing during COVID. So now the segments for Cooking Live have reached over 1,000. Like each post, not just all together, but like one post. They have, as Angey mentioned, gone international. We then took that and saw the response. We started to invite other programs who were wanting to support their messaging. So our DV program, our Warriors of Hope program, they didn't have any social media. So during DV Prevention Month, we're like, hey, want to join us in a Facebook Live? You'll have an opportunity to talk about domestic violence prevention, and we'll be able to cook a good meal. We'll be able to get your face in front of our community. And so we really do support one another interdepartmentally. Our Child and Family Services program, tribal council members have joined our cooking segments. And so it really has just, again, increased our community outreach. So then when we did start doing an outdoor activity in housing, we did, Shannon's amazing and flexible. She did a Cooking Live outside in the covered area, just like it was Canoe Journey. and was cooking stew, and everyone was watching on the live. And so the audio was terrible. It was windy and all the things, but everyone loved it. They loved it so much because it felt like what it used to feel like when we were all able to get together. And that can be messy, but it's wonderful. And so events, we've done our mental health awareness walk. We have gone live on our holiday parade in the rain. I was holding the phone out of the window and it's raining and people are just watching and loving it. And the other really big thing that I did want to talk about was our Red Ribbon Week. We would normally present at the school, maybe get about 100 youth to participate. We have had over 5,000 views for Red Ribbon Week content. And so we did a whole week. We did short videos. They were pre-recorded, which was new for us, but we are just experimenting with our Instagram live to build up that. We would do sneak peeks on our food, because out of our food segment, Shannon was like, hey, what if we were giving away bags of food to help support families who are struggling financially and without having nutrient dense food? So we got approval and started utilizing grant funds to be able to provide food for our families. So if you watch a live, you can sign up for a food bag, and we kept it random so that they would have to tune in. We didn't want to set time. We wanted you to be looking out for our Facebook Live. And so they did that, and now we sell out. We get rid of our bags so quick, we can barely keep up with it. And then they can take pictures, or if you don't get a food bag, you can post your own picture. And so those are some things that have really done really well for us. And again, our Instagram live, we do sneak peeks there. So we're doing different content to even promote ourselves, to even promote our different channels. And then with YouTube, we're starting to do, we have done a virtual bingo, which was awesome. And although more of the parent guardians are watching Facebook, they involve their kids, and then they come over to the other platforms that maybe younger people wouldn't be on. So Twitch is our next challenge, which we're excited about. And we just continue to sort of evolve and learn from our community and each other. And thank you for this time. I hope we can answer any questions to help.
Sure, and we will move to the discussion and questions. We'll just kind of combine those. But Angey, did you want to share anything before we jump into questions and discussion?
The only thing that I wanted to add is that when thinking about your social media platforms, whatever you choose to use, whatever your community is reached through, making sure that the information that is on your landing page, so on the last slide, it showed our Facebook page where when you hit the link or search for us, it's our landing page. Making sure that all that information is up to date and current is really important. Your contact information, the pictures on there, change them all the time. Don't keep a picture from last year up. We, as we get winners, we change the cover of our Facebook page with the winner of the prizes from the incentives for using our hashtag. If you're going to use a hashtag, make sure it's consistent and current, and that it represents you and what your community is doing. But I'm using the hashtag as a way to engage your community is amazing. And Nicole already talked about it, but I just want to clarify a little bit deeper that when we use the hashtag, so we will have an event and say, okay, everybody post pictures on your Facebook page or your Instagram with yourself doing this activity, whatever it is. It's usually a healthy lifestyle choice, safe and sober activity, whatever that is. Use the hashtag and you will be entered into a drawing. So we're really encouraging them, one, to show people that you're healthy, that you're doing the activity, and it's getting people's faces out. We're all a small community. If they see someone on our Facebook page and go, oh, look, so-and-so did that, now I want to do it. And then they use the hashtag. That also helps with your algorithms and your awareness and visibility on the social media platforms. But I would definitely recommend thinking about it. It's a really great tool.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing all of that information. And again, I think you're an amazing example of how we can make this work. And it is not lost on me, and I don't think anyone else, that the amount of effort that you put in to making this successful. So we have some guiding discussion questions, but I did want to see if the audience had any other questions, and I'm going to combine a couple that I saw because I think they are interrelated. So someone mentioned a concern for cyberbullying. And then another person mentioned, and this one was in the Q&A, about how we can help youth differentiate between good social media interaction or like positive social media interaction and negative social media interaction. So I was wondering if you all had any input on either one of those or have experienced anything like that in your programming.
If I'm Nicole, I can take a minute on this one. I feel like, so I am one of those parents that's super apprehensive about social media. I have a 12-year-old daughter who's very interested in all the things. And even with the best parental parameters, guidance, checking in, all the things, you just don't know, right? So it is something to be cautious of. And I think that as a program, we add content in when we're doing the things that we're doing about how to treat each other, about how to use social media and how not to use social media. We encourage healthy social media use when we are on our lives, when we're talking about things. We're saying be kind to each other, compliment someone today, self-care, breathing, like we're talking about those things. And so we're modeling to them what healthy social media use looks like. We as staff use our hashtag and post when we're doing healthy activities with our families so that they can see what that looks like. So, I mean, great question. I think what you do is, one, you model what that looks like and you insert it into your content as just not necessarily a lesson or teaching. It's just what you talk about and how you say what you say. And that really is, I feel like, an effective way to do that.
That's really great response, I think, too, because a lot of times in our programs, and I know with the training and technical assistance we provide, we're always talking about being a good relative, right? And so what does it mean to be a virtual good relative? You know, treating each other kindly, with respect, all of those things. And I like the modeling aspect, like you don't have to explicitly say it. And I think there's a time and a place and a space for that. But I think that what you're talking about goes a lot further with our youth than sitting them down sometimes and saying, don't do this or do that. You're showing them.
I mean, there are times even that we mention limiting screen time in our lives. Hey, remember to get outside, take a walk, limit your screen time. So just incorporating that into the things that you do, I think is gonna be helpful.
Awesome. We probably have time for one more question if anyone wants to put it in the chat. And if not, we'll go ahead and move to our closing.
Melissa put a chat in the Q&A. What safety precautions are you using to keep your posts and your audience and not scammers or stalkers?
I mean, is that something you all have even faced?
So we saw one, because we're on it all the time. So as moderators, we're very hyper vigilant to like who's posting, who's liking. Hey, this is someone with, I've never heard, like, I mean, they had a very unusual name and they were not on any of our other, like none of us were connected to them. They were not connected to the community. And so it's a private group. We were able to we can just disclude someone if we ever, and so really constant monitoring by all team members so that we have constant eyes on it. We've been really lucky to never have an inappropriate post. And as Angey said, we model and we have had direct conversations as needed. We have had parents come to us or guardians who, I'm concerned about the way my child's interacting, not with our content, but with others. And so we have had direct conversations as needed to help support healthy use as well.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you both for your time and your knowledge and your willingness to help uplift all of us in the work that we do and inspire us in ways that we can use digital engagement. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just a quick picture of our team and our partner here at OJJDP. Of course, OJJDP is about enhancing safety, ensuring accountability, and empowering youth. And the Tribal Youth Resource Center is envisioning a future where Indigenous youth can thrive through traditional lifeways. So we hope that we upheld both of those sets of values for you today. Next slide.
Well, everyone, we want to thank you for attending today's session, Digital Smoke Signals Using Technology as a Tool for Engagement. As a reminder, there's a link for the workshop session evaluation in the chat box. So please click on this link now and take a moment to complete the survey. There's also a sign that links to session evaluations in the main virtual lobby. Your feedback is most appreciated. And if you have been unable to join a session that you are interested in, there will be recordings posted on this platform and will remain up until at least April 30th. After this time, you may find the recordings of all the conference sessions at tribalyouth.org.
Thank you. And now all your value